I was standing in a tuxedo shop looking at my wedding suit hanging on the rack, and I swear I had never felt more certain about anything in my life. 7 days. Just 7 more days until I would marry Melisande, the woman I had loved for 4 incredible years. I remember thinking that nothing could possibly go wrong, but I did not know that in just a few hours she would vanish from my life without a single word. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Now, let me take you back to the beginning so you can understand just how blindsided I truly was. 4 years ago, my life changed in a small coffee shop in Portland, Oregon. It was a rainy October afternoon, the kind of day where the sky seems to weep and the streets smell like wet pavement and fallen leaves. I was 30 years old, freshly out of a 2-year relationship that had drained me emotionally, and I was sitting alone with a book trying to remember who I was before I became someone's boyfriend. That is when Melisande walked in. She came through the door in a rush, her dark brown hair damp from the rain droplets clinging to her eyelashes. She was fumbling with her umbrella and her bag at the same time, clearly flustered by the weather. As she hurried past my table, her elbow caught her own coffee cup, and the next thing I knew, warm liquid was spreading across the pages of my book. She apologized so many times I lost count. Her cheeks flushed pink, and she insisted on buying me a new coffee and paying for my ruined book. I told her it was fine, that the book was not that good anyway, which made her laugh. And that laugh, I still remember it. It was genuine and warm, like sunlight breaking through the clouds. We ended up talking for 3 hours that day. Melisande was 28, working as an interior designer for a boutique firm downtown. She had grown up in Seattle, loved hiking on weekends, and had a habit of doodling on napkins when she got nervous. By the time the coffee shop was closing, I knew I wanted to see her again. The first 3 months of our relationship felt like something out of a movie. We explored Portland together, finding hidden restaurants and secret viewpoints. We spent evenings cooking dinner in my apartment, dancing in the kitchen to old songs while pasta boiled on the stove. She laughed at my terrible jokes, and I learned how she liked her eggs in the morning, scrambled with a little bit of cheese. At 6 months, she took me to Seattle to meet her parents. Her father was a retired accountant with a firm handshake and kind eyes. Her mother was a former school teacher who immediately started showing me Melisande's childhood photos. They welcomed me into their home like I belonged there, and when we left 2 days later, her mother hugged me and whispered that she had never seen her daughter so happy. By the 1-year mark, we moved in together, a 2-bedroom apartment with big windows and a small balcony where we would drink coffee on weekend mornings. We adopted a routine that felt comfortable rather than boring. She would wake up before me and have coffee ready by the time I stumbled out of bed. I would cook dinner most nights because she burned everything she touched. We talked about the future like it was already ours. There was a road trip to California where we drove down the coast with the windows down, singing along to songs we both pretended to know. There was our first Christmas together when she gave me a watch that cost too much, and I gave her a necklace that did not cost enough, but she wore it every single day anyway. There was the 2 weeks I was sick with the flu when she took days off work just to bring me soup and make sure I did not die alone in our bedroom. She left little notes in my jacket pockets. "I love you. Have a good day." Simple words that I would find during meetings or on the train, and they always made me smile. I kept every single one of them in a box in my nightstand. 2 years into our relationship, I decided to propose. I spent 8 months saving for the ring, skipping lunches, and putting aside every bonus. The ring was a 1-carat diamond set in white gold, and it cost me $12,000. When the jeweler placed it in the velvet box, I knew it was worth every penny. I proposed on Cannon Beach at sunset. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the waves were gentle against the shore. I got down on one knee, and before I could even finish my prepared speech, she was crying and saying yes over and over again. She threw her arms around me and said it was the happiest moment of her life. We planned the wedding for 2 years, taking our time to make everything perfect. The venue was a vineyard in Willamette Valley, surrounded by rolling hills and grapevines that turned golden in the fall. We booked catering for 150 guests, and Melisande designed our wedding invitations herself, spending weeks getting every detail right. The total cost came to around $45,000. I contributed the larger share since my salary as a software engineer was higher than her income from the design firm, but we both agreed it was worth it. This was our day, our celebration, our future. My parents flew up from Texas multiple times to help with preparations. Her mother cried when they went wedding dress shopping, overwhelmed by how beautiful her daughter looked in white. Our families became close, and everyone talked about the wedding like it was the most anticipated event of the year. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly how I had always dreamed my life would be, and I had no idea that perfection was about to shatter into a million pieces. It was a Saturday, exactly 7 days before the wedding, when everything fell apart. I came home from my final tuxedo fitting around 7 in the evening, still riding high on the excitement of the week ahead. The apartment was dark when I walked in, silent. Melisande was supposed to be home. We had dinner reservations at 8, a little celebration just for us, before the chaos of the wedding week began. I called out her name. No answer. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. I sent her a text asking where she was. The message showed as delivered but not read. I figured she must be running late, maybe stuck in traffic or caught up with wedding preparations. An hour passed, then 2. I called her phone a dozen times, but it went straight to voicemail. I told myself not to panic. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she was with the bridesmaids for a last-minute thing. The bachelorette party had been the week before, but maybe they planned a surprise. By midnight, I was pacing the apartment. I had called everyone I could think of. Her coworkers had not seen her since Friday. The bridesmaid said she had mentioned needing some alone time, but did not specify where she was going. No one knew anything. I barely slept that night. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of her key in the door. It never came. Sunday morning arrived with no word from Melisande. The silence was deafening. I called Jenna, her best friend and maid of honor, as soon as it was a reasonable hour. Her voice sounded strange on the phone, hesitant in a way I had never heard before. She said she did not know where Melisande was. She said it in a way that made me feel like she was not telling me everything, but when I pressed her, she insisted she knew nothing. I wanted to believe her. Then I called her parents. Her mother answered, and I could hear the worry in her voice. She said Melisande had sent her a short text message the day before, saying only that she needed time to think. When I asked what she needed to think about, her mother went quiet. She did not have an answer. I went through the day like a zombie. I could not eat. I could not focus. I just kept checking my phone every 30 seconds, waiting for some sign that she was okay, that there was an explanation for all of this. Sunday night, my phone finally buzzed with a message from Melisande. My heart nearly stopped as I opened it. The words on the screen were brief and cold. I need space. Please do not contact me. I will explain when I am ready. That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just an instruction to leave her alone while our wedding was 6 days away and our entire life together hung in the balance. I did not sleep that night either. I oscillated between anger and terror, between wanting to respect her wishes and wanting to drive through every street in Portland until I found her. Monday came, and I had to go to work. I sat through meetings without hearing a word. When coworkers asked about the wedding, I smiled and said everything was great. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. By Tuesday, I could not take the uncertainty anymore. I started reaching out to people, trying to piece together any information I could find. I called old friends, sent messages to acquaintances, anyone who might have seen or heard from her. That is when I talked to Derek. Derek was someone Melisande knew from college, a casual friend who occasionally showed up at parties. He mentioned almost offhandedly that he had seen her on Saturday night at a bar downtown. My stomach dropped as he described the scene. She was sitting in a corner booth, he said, talking with a guy. Tall, dark hair, maybe mid-30s. They looked comfortable together, he noted, like they knew each other well. My hands were shaking as I thanked Derek and hung up. Something cold and sharp was forming in my chest, a suspicion I did not want to acknowledge. I went through Melisandre's social media that night, scrolling back through years of photos. In an album from 5 years ago before we ever met, I found pictures of her with a man. His name was Marcus. She had mentioned him once or twice, a long-term boyfriend from her mid-20s. They had dated for 3 years before breaking up, she told me, because they wanted different things. She said it ended amicably, that there were no lingering feelings. The man in the photos matched Derek's description. Tall, dark hair, handsome in a way that made my stomach churn. I searched for Marcus on social media and found his profile. My blood ran cold when I saw his most recent post dated just over a week ago. A photo of the Portland skyline with a caption that read, "Back in town for some unfinished business." The pieces started falling into place, and I hated the picture they were forming. I called Jenna again. This time I was not gentle. I told her what I had found, told her I knew she was hiding something. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and then I heard her sigh. Marcus contacted her about a month ago, Jenna said quietly. He told her he made a mistake leaving her, that he had never stopped thinking about her. My legs gave out. I sank onto the couch, the phone pressed against my ear. She was confused, Jenna continued. She said she needed to see him one last time, for closure, before the wedding. She promised me it would just be a conversation. Closure. The word echoed in my head. My fiancé had disappeared a week before our wedding to get closure with her ex-boyfriend, and she had not even had the decency to tell me. I confronted Melisandre's parents the next day. They did not deny it. Her mother looked at me with tears in her eyes and admitted that their daughter was staying at a hotel with Marcus. They said they did not approve, that they had begged her to come home, but she said she needed to do this. Jenna told me more details when I pressed her. Melisandre and Marcus had spent 5 days together. They had gone to dinner. They had gone to a movie. They had visited the same places where Melisandre and I had made memories together, as if she was trying to overwrite our history with his. While I had been losing my mind with worry, unable to eat or sleep, wondering if the woman I loved was alive or dead, she had been living some kind of romantic reunion with a man from her past. I sat alone in our apartment that night, surrounded by evidence of the life we had built together, the photos on the walls, the throw pillows she had picked out, the kitchen where we had danced and laughed. It all looked different now, tainted by betrayal. For the first time in years, I cried. Not the quiet tears that come from sad movies or difficult days, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere primal. I cried until my chest hurt, and my eyes were swollen, until there was nothing left inside me but emptiness. And then something shifted. The emptiness gave way to clarity. I realized I had spent days waiting, hoping, begging for answers from a woman who could not even be bothered to pick up the phone. I had put my life on pause while she figured out her feelings with another man, and I was done. The next morning I took action. The engagement ring was still in the jewelry box on her dresser. She had left it behind when she disappeared, which told me everything I needed to know about where her priorities lay. I took the ring to a jeweler downtown. They offered me $8,000. It was less than I had paid, but I did not care. I wanted it gone. Then I started making phone calls. The Vineyard was first. The event coordinator sounded confused when I explained that the wedding was canceled. I lost $5,000 in deposits. The catering company was next, another $2,000 gone. Then the photographer, the DJ, the florist, the bakery. By the end of the morning, I had lost over $12,000 in non-refundable deposits and erased every trace of the wedding we had planned. I called my parents and asked them to help spread the word to guests. I called my brother Nathan and asked him to notify my side of the family. I kept the explanation simple. The wedding was off, personal reasons. I did not owe anyone the details of my humiliation. That afternoon, I packed all of Melisandre's belongings into cardboard boxes, her clothes, her books, her decorative items that had made our apartment feel like home. I stacked them neatly in the corner of the living room and tried not to think about how empty the space looked without them. Each task felt like ripping a bandage off a wound. It hurt, but there was relief underneath. I was taking back control of my life. 3 days later, on what should have been our wedding day, Melisandre showed up at my office. I was in a meeting with my team when the receptionist called to say I had a visitor. When I walked into the lobby, I barely recognized the woman standing there. Melisande looked like she had not slept in days. Her hair was uncombed, her eyes red and swollen, her clothes wrinkled as if she had pulled them from the floor. She started crying the moment she saw me. "I made a terrible mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "Marcus meant nothing. It was just closure. I choose you. I have always chosen you. Please, we can still fix this." I stood there looking at the woman I had loved for 4 years and felt nothing but cold emptiness. "Closure for 5 days, I asked quietly. "In a hotel room with your ex?" She shook her head frantically. "We just talked. I needed to know I was making the right choice. I was scared, I panicked, but I know now. I want you. I want us." "And you needed 5 days to figure that out. While I was going insane wondering if you were dead or alive. While I could not eat or sleep or think straight." I know, and I am so sorry." She reached for my hands, but I stepped back. "But we can work through this. We can postpone the wedding, go to counseling, do whatever it takes." My voice was steady when I responded. "You had 4 years to be sure. You had a ring on your finger. You chose to disappear a week before our wedding to be with another man. That is not cold feet. That is not needing space. That is betrayal." "But nothing happened," she insisted. "I just needed to close that chapter." "You do not close chapters by opening hotel rooms." Her face crumpled. "Please, tell me what I can do. Tell me how to fix this." "There is nothing to fix," I said. "The wedding is canceled. I sold the ring. I am moving on, and I suggest you do the same." The color drained from her face. "You sold the ring." "I sold the ring." She collapsed onto a lobby chair, sobbing uncontrollably. People were staring. I could feel their eyes on us, but I did not care anymore. "I loved you more than I have ever loved anyone," I told her quietly. "But you destroyed that in 5 days. There is no coming back from this. Please leave. Do not contact me again." I turned and walked toward the elevator. I did not look back. The first week after that confrontation was brutal. I went through the motions of living without actually feeling alive. I woke up, went to work, came home, stared at the walls. The apartment felt too big, too quiet, too full of memories that I was trying desperately to forget. My brother Nathan flew up from Texas and stayed with me for 2 weeks. He did not ask questions or try to give advice. He just existed in the same space, watching sports on the couch, making sure I ate something every day. His presence was a lifeline I did not know I needed. My mother called every morning. She never pried into the details, just told me about the weather in Texas, about the neighbor's new dog, about the tomatoes growing in her garden. Normal things. Proof that life continued even when your world fell apart. Melisande kept trying to reach me. She sent dozens of text messages that I deleted without reading. She wrote emails that went straight to trash. One day, a handwritten letter arrived at my apartment. I threw it away unopened. There was nothing she could say that would change what had happened. 2 weeks after the canceled wedding, I loaded all her boxes into my car and drove to her parents' house in Seattle. I left them on the porch without ringing the doorbell. I did not need closure. I just needed distance. The second month was when I started to rebuild. I joined a gym not because I cared about fitness, but because I needed somewhere to channel the anger that still simmered beneath the surface. I lifted weights until my muscles screamed, ran on the treadmill until my lungs burned. Slowly, the rage began to transform into something else. Strength, maybe. Or acceptance. In the 3rd month, I signed up for an indoor rock climbing class. It was something I had always wanted to try, but never had time for when I was planning a wedding. The class was full of strangers who knew nothing about my past, who did not look at me with pity or curiosity. We climbed walls together, spotted each other, celebrated small victories. I started to remember what it felt like to have fun. Work became my anchor. I volunteered to lead a new project, throwing myself into the technical challenges that had always made me feel competent and capable. The long hours helped fill the void, and the accomplishments reminded me that I was more than just a man who had been abandoned. In the 4th month, I took a solo trip to Iceland. I stood in front of massive waterfalls and walked across black sand beaches. I watched the northern lights dance across the sky and felt for the first time in months a sense of wonder instead of pain. The world was vast and beautiful, and my broken heart was just a tiny speck in the grand scheme of things. By the 6th month, I could think about Melisande without feeling like I was being stabbed. The sharp pain had faded into a dull ache, and even that was starting to disappear. I used the money from the ring and the recovered wedding savings to put a down payment on a small studio apartment. A fresh start, a space that was entirely mine. Looking back now, I can see the warning signs I ignored. The way Melisande sometimes grew quiet when old songs came on the radio. The way she occasionally scrolled through old photos with a distant look in her eyes. I had assumed she was nostalgic for simpler times. I never imagined she was nostalgic for a different man. I learned something important about myself through all of this. I had fallen in love with an idea of Melisande, a version of her that I had constructed in my mind. The perfect partner, the future mother of my children, the woman who would never hurt me. I had ignored the real person standing in front of me because the fantasy was so much more comfortable. Real love. I understand now does not require closure with old flames. It does not need comparisons or trial runs. Real love shows up every day, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. When I refused to take Melisande back, some people thought I was being harsh, too proud, too unforgiving. But I know the truth. Walking away was not about punishing her. It was about respecting myself. It was about refusing to build a marriage on a foundation that had already cracked. A year has passed since that terrible week. I am still single, but I am not lonely. I have friends who make me laugh, hobbies that challenge me, a career that fulfills me. I have learned to enjoy my own company, to sit with silence without feeling desperate to fill it. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Melisande and Marcus did not work out. She moved back to Seattle to live with her parents. Part of me felt a flicker of something when I heard that, but it faded quickly. Her story is no longer connected to mine. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if she had never disappeared. Would I have married her blissfully unaware that she still had feelings for someone else? Would I have spent years in a marriage with a woman who was never fully present? Perhaps her vanishing act, as devastating as it was, saved me from an even worse fate. I used to think that week was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now I see it differently. It was painful, yes. Humiliating, absolutely. But it was also the moment I discovered my own strength. The moment I learned that I could survive losing everything I thought I wanted and emerge on the other side not just intact, but better. If you are going through something similar, if someone you trusted has shattered your world, I want you to know that the pain will not last forever. It does not feel that way now, but one day you will wake up and realize that the weight on your chest has lifted. You will laugh again. You will trust again. You will love again, but wiser this time. The person who left did not take your future with them. They just made room for a better one. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment that felt like the end of everything, only to realize later that it was actually a beginning? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this video resonated with you, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, for being here, for being part of this community. I wish you strength for the hard days and peace for the quiet ones. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it.